Warm greetings to each and every one of you. My name is Paul-André Durocher. I'm the Archbishop of Gatineau, and this is the Word in the Christmas cycle, series where I explore the readings of the day as they are proposed for the liturgy of the Eucharist in the Roman Catholic Church. Today, Tuesday, January 5th, we continue with our reading of the first letter of John, which is proposed as the first readings at Mass during this Christmas season. And the text that I'm going to read to you is a short one, and it is probably one of the most well-known from this first letter of John. Let me just read it through in one go. Beloved, let us love one another, because love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. God's love was revealed among us in this way. God sent his only Son into the world so that we might live through him. In this is love, not that we have loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be the atoning sacrifice for our sins. It truly is a very beautiful text. But it is one that can easily lead to misunderstanding, particularly if we excerpt the one sentence that says, God is love. Elsewhere in this first letter, John says, God is life, God is light, God is spirit. Here, God is love. The problem lies in this, that if we think we know what love is and then apply it to God, we're going to get it. Well, we won't get it right. What John is saying here in this letter is that it is God who is love, not us. Love is not, first of all, a human reality. It is a divine reality. And we can only come to know what love truly is in our relationship with the source of love, which is God. The word that he uses in Greek is agape, which is different from eros, the passionate love that rises between in romance, in romantic love. It's a different word from storge, which is family love, the love between members, sons and daughters and parents. It is different from philein, which is to love as a friend. All of these are very human realities, and they are very good realities. But they in themselves only give us an inkling of what it means to love, to know love in God. God's love, he says it clearly. God's love was revealed to us in this way, that God sent his only Son into the world so that we might live through him. That God sent his Son, gave his Son, made a move towards us so that we might live through his Son, Jesus. In this is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son. So it is not we who start by loving God. It is not even we who define what love is all about. It is God, according to John. And in that love there is, he says, the total self-gift of Jesus. He sent his Son to be the atoning sacrifice for our sins. This is how we come to know love, by coming to know the forgiveness of all our limits, of all our frailties, by coming to know an unquenchable, and I'm looking for the word, it can't be quenched, an unquenchable, an unconditional love. This comes from God. All human loves, as I said, there's something good in them, but they can so easily be twisted. They can so easily be corrupted, so that the love I have for a partner can become a seductive, lying, jealous love. The love I have for my children can become controlling, or The love I have for my parents might be something I try to use for my own profit. Even the love I have for my friends might be based more on popularity and on need than on actual self-gift. Only in God do I find a love that is totally given to the other, that dies to itself in order to make the other live. This is what we discover in Jesus. And this is the love, the author says, we should have for each other, because love is from God. If we know God, then we will bring that love into our relationship with others. And everyone who loves in this way is born of God and knows God, because you can't love this way unless you've really been touched by the mystery of God's love for us. Whoever does not love in this way, it is because they do not know God, for God is love. A remarkable text, but one that needs to be meditated deeply and taken to heart. Let's move to the Gospel, Mark's Gospel, chapter 6, verses 34 to 44. As I said yesterday, the Gospels that are chosen from now till the feast of the baptism of Jesus are meant to be examples of when Jesus manifests himself, when Jesus shows himself to be Messiah, to be Son of God. It is, Jesus is, we can say, on the scene. And so we look at this story, which is the story of the multiplication of the breads, which we know well, but let's listen to how Mark does this. Jesus and the disciples got into a boat and went off to a deserted place. But many people hurried there before them, so that as Jesus went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion for them because they were like sheep without a shepherd, and he began to teach them many things. Right away here, we hear echoes of the prophecy of Ezekiel, where God says, my people are like sheep that are not tended for, not cared for. I myself will come and shepherd my sheep. And so in Jesus, this is God coming to shepherd, to tend his sheep, to care for his sheep. And how does he do this? First of all, by teaching them. Because fundamentally there is a good news to be announced. This was what we heard yesterday in Matthew's Gospel. There is a good news to be brought to the people. The people need to have a meaning to their lives. I had a friend who used to say, I can deal with any how as long as you give me a why. And so being lost is first of all a question of not knowing what life is about, what we are about, where we are going. And this is the teaching that Jesus wants to impart to these people. Now, when it grew late, his disciples came to him and said, this is a deserted place, and the hour is now very late. Send them away so that they may go into the surrounding country and villages and buy something for themselves to eat. And this is quite a reasonable request here. These people are going to get hungry. They are hungry. They need to go feed themselves. And Jesus answers a very strange answer. You give them something to eat. Well, the disciples don't have anything with them, and Jesus knows them. This scene occurs just after Jesus has sent his disciples out, his apostles out to preach, and they've come back, and that's why they were in the boat to go off to a deserted place so that they could talk about their experience of having shared the good news. Jesus had entrusted the mission to them, and now he entrusts the carrying of his sheep to them. And he says, you give them something to eat. And of course, their response is, what are we going to do? Are we to go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give it to them to eat? That's practically, that's getting close to a year's salary for a daily worker. Where will we get this money? And we're going to go buy this and bring them back to eat. And so they are stuck. They hear Jesus's command, but they don't know how to respond to it. Jesus says to them, how many loaves have you got? Go and see. And when they had found out, they said, 5 and 2 fish. Then Jesus ordered them to get all the people to sit down in groups on the green grass. This touch on the green grass, we can't help but think of the Psalm of the Good Shepherd. He makes me lie down in green pastures. Jesus really is the Good Shepherd. So they sat down in groups of hundreds and of 50s. Actually, in the Greek, it seems to imply 100 rows of 50 people. So they're really organized, a bit like Israel when they were in the desert, under the leadership of Moses. Every time they would camp, their camp would be very, very organized. And it's as if this crowd that was like sheep gone astray, all of a sudden now they're an ordered, structured people. There's a huge contrast between how Jesus finds these people and how he organizes them. And it's as if they are embodying now the story of old Israel when God would feed them with manna in the desert. Now it is Jesus who's going to feed them. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, Jesus looked up to heaven and blessed and broke the loaves and gave them to his disciples to set before the people. Now, 2 points here. Obviously, the authors, I'm saying the authors because not only Mark tells the story, but Luke and John and Matthew, and they all echo in the description of this scene the language of the Eucharist. They all echo the Jewish blessing, which became the blessing that Jesus used over the bread and wine at the last meal. And so obviously the early readers, the early Christian community, when they would read this, they would right away hear an echo of the Eucharist. And he gave it to the disciples to set before the people to eat. Jesus could have gone off on his own with the food and handed it out. I mean, people would have said, "Are you so good?" They would have had a chance to thank him and everything. But no, he involves his disciples. You go now and give them to eat. And he gives them the food to bring to others. They didn't go to a store. They came to him. He is the one who provides the food. And in this, there's a very deep message that as we become responsible, take up the mission of Jesus, we need to remember what is the source of this mission. It is in Jesus. And what is the good news? It is the good news of Jesus. And what is the food that we're about to eat that we should give pardon to people? It is the food which is Jesus himself. It is a powerful message here that Jesus reveals himself as, you could say, the figure of God caring for his people, but calling his apostles, his disciples, to take up that mission with him. And they all ate, and they were filled. And they took up 12 baskets. 12 is the number of the tribes of Israel, and it's also the number of the apostles. 12 baskets full of broken pieces and of the fish. These baskets are full. They're still full. There's more for others. The mission is never finished. There is food for the whole world in Jesus. So we see how this gospel excerpt really shows us who Jesus is, what he's about. And it helps us understand the mission of the Messiah that came to free us from our deepest hungers and thirsts. He is the one who feeds us. He truly is the Good Shepherd. God bless.